Hey everyone, Dr. Brent Siebold here with another installment of Make It Happen. Hopefully you've tuned into prior episodes, but here I'm super excited. We're joined by my dear friend, Gabe Gasca. He's a rock star leader within our local entrepreneurial community here within the Metro Phoenix area. I hope he'll touch upon his roles within our Yes Phoenix movement. That's hashtag Yes Phoenix. But as you'll also hopefully hear, Gabe has had a really fun career in the realm of tech commercialization, student mentorship, and entrepreneurship writ large. So again, our goal with Make It Happen is to give you, as Gabe's slides here show, a competitive advantage by leveraging either entrepreneurship or innovation management tactics, strategies, best practices, and in today's case, an entrepreneurial mindset. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Gabe and love to hear what you've got to share with this group for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then, as we always do with Make It Happen, very interactive, want to open it up to the full group in the last half hour to really engage in some nice Q&A that, again, will be shared with hopefully lots of other people for posterity on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, Gabe.
All right, Brent. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be presenting today, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe in these times. Like we were talking about earlier, I've been on some Zoom webinars, and it's been interesting and fun to have the speakers like put out questions and have people respond in the chat box. So I'll be trying to do that and make it as interactive as possible, and hopefully get some insight from you as well along the way. So with that, let's get started. I love the marketing piece about this presentation, and I grabbed that information. I stole it from you, Brent. Sorry, but I think you would be okay. But I love the questions, and I wanted to add one word. Why do you want an edge in your future career? Why do you want to make an impact? Why are you looking to advance your career, life, and ideas? Why make it happen? Obviously Simon Sinek has made why famous, and a lot of great information has come from that and has affected my life, and really pushed me to ask that question. And I think it's important for everybody to do that. So here's our first opportunity. Go ahead and put in your why. Why do you want to have these things impact your life, or why do you want to maybe take on that entrepreneurial mindset to make a better life? We'd love to see some of your comments and interests. So to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset, I think it's important to discuss what it is first. We've heard a lot about it. You can go on Google, and there's going to be a number of things that are defining it and talking about it. So again, I'm going to hit you up again. Go ahead and put in the chat box, what do you think the entrepreneurial mindset is? I did my research and went around to a number of sites, and this description really hit home for me. And it's from the site called Axion, which is a financial platform to help entrepreneurs. But the entrepreneurial mindset is unique in that one must be creative, communicative, and highly motivated to succeed, yet open to risk and failure. And I think in the last 10 years, being an entrepreneur has really become very sexy. 10, 15 years, obviously Mark Zuckerberg, and becoming a billionaire, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to create a company that is going to impact the world and do all these great things? But I think what over a lot is that last word, failure. And in my opinion, I think someone's got maybe needs a mute.
I
In
got
my
him.
opinion, while all the other characteristics are important, failure is the most critical. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this presentation today. So with that, do you think it's okay to fail? Have you had failure in your life? Go ahead and write down some things. Unfortunately, I can't see the comments, so I'm not going to be able to. I wanted to pick out some. Maybe Brent can, if you see them, you can mention a couple. You know, there's definitely a stigma about it, and you know, by even looking at the failure of the failure definition, you know, failure is the lack of success. It's the exact opposite, obviously. But point number 2, the omission of expected or required action. That, you know, description is interesting. Omission of expected or required action. And to me, I really focus in on that word and really the last word, sorry, the word action is, I think, really important when we're talking about failure. So you're either, you know, you're not doing something or there wasn't an action that's done. And we're going to focus on this word for the rest of the presentation. But I'd like to refer it as not just action. I want to call it failure action. And the next few slides, 3 slides, are going to be examples of incredible, awesome failure action. And this first example is somebody that I think you know, and I'm just going to read Mr. Jobs' quote. "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." You know, he's known as one of the most enigmatic inventors and innovators in history. Probably his first failure was getting kicked out of his own company. He created Apple by his own board. But did he stop? No, he went and created Next Software, which Next eventually sold the operating software to Apple, which is the heart of Mac OS X. He took that time off, so to speak, and called it his creative period and acquired Pixar. And when he returned to Apple in '97, he invented the iPod, MacBook, iPad, power adapter, and iPhone. And, you know, his failures propelled him to greatness. Just think what would have happened if he would have just given up and said, I'm done with this technology thing. I'm just going to go be you know, whatever, an attorney or whatever. Where would we be? I mean, I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now because I'm using my Mac and iPhone and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure a lot of people are on this call. So I thought he was a great example of failure action and how it propelled him to greatness. The second one, I'm going to take a sip of water first. How many of you know of Sarah Blakely and Spanx? She is an incredible entrepreneur, and I'm going to start off by reading her quote. We'd sit around the dinner table, and he'd ask, "What did you guys fail at this week?" If we had nothing to tell him, he'd be disappointed. He knew that many people became paralyzed by the fear of failure. My father wanted us to try everything and feel free to push the envelope. His attitude taught me to define failure as not trying something I wanted to do instead of not achieving the right outcome. And I love her story, and I love how her failure action pushed her to find something that wasn't immediate. She wanted to be a litigator like her father, took the LSAT twice and failed it twice. She actually took a course the second time and studied way more, and she scored 1 point less the second time than the first time. So with not having that career, she went into selling fax machines door to door for 7 years. And when you hear about her story, you know, she got used to having her business card ripped up, getting escorted out of buildings by police, all these kind of horrible things. I've done cold calling in my day, and nothing compares to something like that where you're, you know, face to face with the potential customer. And she, you know, was a natural salesperson and utilized that experience to better hone her craft, but then also figure out what she wanted to do. In that time, she kind of used it not necessarily as downtime, but a creative time to figure out what she wanted to do, that she wanted to create a business that she could call her own and grow and do incredible things. And the idea for Spanx came. She took a $5,000 investment and turned it into over $1 billion. And 2012, she was the Forbes magazine youngest self-made female billionaire in the world. Her story is incredible. Again, you can find stuff on her on YouTube. Highly recommend listening or reading the articles, because she's just very inspiring. She's kind of, you know, average person, but with great skill sets growing up, and persevered as well, and has done some truly amazing things. Her story is very inspiring. Third example, I'm going to go back a little bit, but I think Thomas Edison is definitely in the list, and his quote kind of speaks to a number of things. Many of life's failures are people who do not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. You know, he wasn't a very well educated man. 3 months of formal education, homeschooled until age 12, fired from his first 2 jobs, struggled to keep his next job, took 1,000 unsuccessful attempts before creating the light bulb. And then he went on and created other, you know, important things, phonograph, or a version of it, telephone transmitter, electric pen. But what I love about Thomas Edison is that perseverance. And, you know, even though he had all these strikes against him, he was so passionate about being an inventor and an innovator that he just kept going, pushing forward. And really the moral of the story is that perseverance pays off. So about now, you're probably thinking and would say that, yeah, Gabe, these are great examples, but how does this help me now? And what I want to go into next is some points of becoming I'd say taking on that entrepreneurial mindset. And you know, this first quote that I have here: every entrepreneur is unique and no path to success is the same. I think you can plug in every person is unique, obviously, and no path to success is the same, because you don't have to be an entrepreneur to take on this mindset. You don't have to start a company to encompass these things that we're going to go through. But if you do, when you do, the sky's the limit on what you can achieve. There are many corporate settings that, you know, if you're looking for a career after going to school, or maybe you've been in a career now, and because of the current state where we're at, you know, looking at your future and finding something that is going to speak to you more, taking on some of these characteristics and developing that entrepreneurial mindset will definitely help you in transition or going into an area where you're are going to, you know, find that success that you might be searching for. So first, characteristics of the entrepreneur: ability to control self-doubt, accountability, resilience, willingness to experiment. And I do want to say that, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of programs. There's a lot of information on the internet on finding the entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial mindset success. As the quote says, every entrepreneur is unique and no path to success is the same. It's kind of the same, I feel, with finding that entrepreneurial mindset. You might get something from one article or hear somebody speak about it and grab some information from them, which there is no clear path. It's more about encompassing these characteristics and developing that mindset. So however you go about doing it, this is one example, and I took it from Inc. Business 101. It's actually a course on how to develop an entrepreneur mindset, and it's taught by Spank's creator, Sarah Blakely. I'm not endorsing this, but I thought that the information that they provided and video was really interesting. There is a cost for it. So again, I'm not endorsing it, but should you want to, you can have the deck, and the link to it is right there. But what I kind of want to finish with is just that the entrepreneurial mindset is something that is developed. It's a skill set. It's not something that you're born with. One person doesn't have an edge over another because they were born into a family or their parents were entrepreneurs or a family, whatever it was. It's really more about desire, passion, hustle, and wanting to develop these different mindsets, so to speak. So the first one, set clear goals, kind of goes without saying, but it's something that can easily be overlooked. Brainstorming, if you don't have, say, where the path that you want to go, down, or there are too many things to explore, brainstorming, doing research, writing down what is right for you, and then being accountable, connecting with friends, family. As Brent mentioned, the Phoenix ecosystem of entrepreneurs has been growing for about 10 years. There've always been entrepreneurs here, but the community's really come together, say, in the last 10 years. And there's great resources to connect with at ASU, but then also in the community as well. But the important thing is to get clear on those goals, write them down, and then be accountable and with somebody or group and push to make those goals happen. Practice being decisive. I love this point because it's something that can be developed and that you can start small and get good at it on a small level and then take it on up to higher level decisions. This particular mindset is so important in being an entrepreneur because you're constantly having to make decisions about your business or program or service or whatever it is, and being wishy-washy, flip-flopping on it will waste time and money, and really being able to have the ability to assess a situation and make a decision and go with it. And it may not be the right one, but then you're going to make an adjustment, and once you find, get the results of that decision. And I put on the line restaurant. A great way to start is the next time you order lunch, scan the menu once, and then make a decision on what you're going to eat. Don't look at it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's a non, it's not going to affect you too much. You may not have the best lunch in that particular, meal, but 6 hours later, you're going to eat again and you can make a better choice if that wasn't a great one. Start practicing very small and then incrementally increase the decisions that you make, but be decisive about it. The third point, redefine failure. This is I think a big one. Turn that failure into a positive. It's all about the dialogue if you have suffered failures, the dialogue you have about that, the baggage you have about that. Guaranteed, even in tough failures, bankruptcies, failing a class, doing things that you think are going to ruin your life, there's going to be positives that come out of it. And if you write it down, talk with somebody, they're going to be able to find positives about it. And it's going to change your perspective. Again, turn that negative into a positive. Some of the examples that I showed of Edison for sure had a bankruptcy. Some of the greatest people that we've known have had a number of bankruptcies. before they've hit it big. So it's not something that, you can't get stuck on it. You just have to keep moving forward. Face your fears. This is also a great one. Expose yourself to it. Maybe you don't like speaking in public. Well, take a public speaking class or a stand-up comedy class. The ability to communicate your skill set, your vision, your dreams, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working in a corporation and you're wanting to advance the corporate ladder, you've got to be a great salesperson, and feeling comfortable speaking in front of people in that environment is going to be huge. And it just takes practice. That's all it does. I have debate there because critical thinking is also very important. Take a debate class, get on the debate team, or join a club to where you're fine tuning that skill set. Also will pay dividends when you're starting a company or working within a company and looking to advance. And then the last thing is remain curious. And this might be the most important trait because you've got to constantly be learning, constantly be reading, watching, YouTube videos. If you listen or learn about any great CEO or any great business leader, they're constantly sharpening their axe, as the saying goes, learning how to do different things that they're not comfortable with, or expanding their knowledge base. I remember hearing about Bill Gates. He would go for a week and while he was running Microsoft and just learn a whole week of, in a cabin, his own cabin or whatever. He would just take a bunch of books of topics that he wanted to learn about, and he would just study and learn. Seek out new people and experiences, and have understanding that you want to have the curiosity to see around corners of what's not coming. Having that mindset of wanting to see what the unknown is and see how you can make an imprint on improving it or being a part of it or whatever that case may be. So that's the presentation. And I didn't put a lot about me. I'd be happy to share a little bit. As Brent mentioned, Brent, how much time are we looking at?
Oh, we're doing great on time. That was perfect, Gabe. Really valuable stuff. I'm really happy you were able to share that with us. So yes, I think before we open up to general Q&A, I would love for you to spend some time talking a little bit more about your career and what's happening at the moment in your world.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't want to spend too much time on myself, but I guess that's probably a good idea. So I went to school I'm going to go way back because my entrepreneurial career kind of got started there. Went to school in Santa Barbara and UC Santa Barbara, and thought I was going to be a career counselor for my life. I thought that was my career path and passion, and had the opportunity after graduating of actually working in a career center and realized that it wasn't going to be my path, and that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. And so all the techniques and things that I taught others to go down there to explore their career path, I did on myself. And I ended up meeting a professor in the engineering department at UC Santa Barbara that had started a tech company to sell research instrumentation that he had developed. And I joined the company, and literally as a kind of office admin, and it was a startup. And every day I came in, there were more responsibilities to be had, and so I literally got like an MBA on the job, helping start this company. And this was kind of when the .com was starting to blow up. So there really wasn't a lot of resources available about being an entrepreneur and how to do it. So I kind of would work all day and then, go to the library and find books on accounting and, branding and things of that nature, and figured out a lot on my own. While I would love to say that business, took me to great heights of success financially, I ended up having to shut the doors down on it. It didn't work out, but in the time of working and building that business, I got to travel the world and do some really cool things, and again learn about being an entrepreneur. I spent time in San Francisco, and after that business, I moved to San Francisco. Spent time there in a number of industries, from wireless to agencies. I did branding and marketing for agencies like Microsoft, Adobe, the Republic of Tea, and then eventually met my wife there, moved here to Arizona in 2011, and worked in some more agency, did some more agency work, but really felt pulled back to the entrepreneurial community. And about 2013, started to do more within the community. The Arizona Technology Council started a committee for entrepreneurs, and was one of the leaders of that, and was able to launch a co-working space. It was about the time when I met Brent in 2015, and it was at the time we were the biggest co-working space in Arizona, and really helped foster a community, and helped entrepreneurs as they were fledgling companies, give direction, about creating their business, finding technical help, resources, financing, various things. So it was a great opportunity to help grow a community, but then also help entrepreneurs grow as they're starting businesses. And I think that's it has been a really rewarding road, very windy. I think probably more on the entrepreneurial side, and wanting to try different things. I've had the opportunity of working with Brent as a pro TA in his class. And if you students out there, that class is an amazing class. I would highly recommend it if you aren't already in it. The knowledge that you're going to get, the work that Brent and his team has put together for the curriculum is incredible, and is something that it would take a lot longer to put all the resources and get that experience, like years, that you get condensed into a semester. So
Gabe, I thought I told you that I'm no longer providing commission for enrollments in the class.
Well,
no, thanks. That's very nice of you to say. And the class wouldn't be the same without involvement from people like you and several other, industry and ecosystem folks that we bring in. So thanks, Gabe.
Absolutely. And it just made me think about, Brent, real quick. I just want to say that having lived in different areas, a couple in California, here in Arizona, the Arizona ecosystem is totally unique. The entrepreneurial ecosystem, Brent, what you're doing and what ASU is doing to foster entrepreneurism and that entrepreneurial mindset, I think is unprecedented in the world. And there are a number of communities in the Phoenix metro area that are really there to foster it as well, from a different perspective. So when coupled all together, you're not going to really find a system as strong and accessible and ability to get to leaders that in other areas like Silicon Valley or New York or Boston, it's just harder. We have a really unique system in our backyard, and everyone that has an inkling should just take, even if you just go to one presentation and see if it's right for you, it's worth the opportunity because the system's so unique.
Fantastic. Well, we've had a lively conversation on chat. So Gabe, I think people are still working on your first assignment, which was to introduce themselves and their why. So if you want to scroll through and look at some of the introductions, we have a wide range of actually pre-first year, first year, second year, third year, graduate level folks here. So we have a really nice diverse group. And maybe before others want to chime in with questions, as I mentioned, we have our colleague Kristen Pena from our Entrepreneurial Mindset, kind of sponsored work that we have at ASU. I'm curious if about Kristen's reaction to the various definitions of entrepreneurial mindset that you shared. And I hope Kristen agrees that I think the actionable steps that you shared, Gabe, toward the end of your presentation were very compelling. And I'd love to hear Kristen's thoughts on that, and if she has any questions about any of those materials.
Yeah, no, I think that was great. So like Brent mentioned, I do a grant here at ASU that focuses on incorporating the entrepreneurial mindset in engineering education. And we focus on curiosity, connections, and creating value when we describe it. Just because saying entrepreneurial mindset has a lot of preconceived notions with it. But we focus more on like a problem solving approach and utilizing the 3 C's to better describe it. But I also like your focus on failing and not being risk averse, which is also something that we try to incorporate in our definition, but I feel like you did it in a really, really great way also, and a focus on that, because I think that's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur or applying this mindset is that being scared to fail. So but the question that I was going to ask, which actually John in the chat already asked, was how you see this entrepreneurial mindset applying or making you more successful in a larger organization. So not necessarily someone who wants to start their own startup, but be a leader within an already established organization, or just be a better employee overall.
Right. Well, I think the first thing I should say is that I've only had I had one stint in a publicly traded company, and it was for a year or so in San Francisco. And majority of my work has been on the entrepreneurial side, but I obviously have a lot of friends that have worked in large organizations, and so I feel I can speak to it, but I just want to throw that out there. If you look at my resume, it's not I'm not career heavy on the corporate side, but what I do know is that the competitive landscape in any business, especially now that we're in these times that we've got, if you can come to the table and have an entrepreneurial, I've heard it called something, not necessarily apples to apples, but like a CEO mindset as opposed to an employee mindset, you're going to add more value than a potential coworker that is just saying, I'm here for the paycheck, or I'm doing my job, but I'm just staying within my lane. I think that what I can say though, from my experience, when I did go from that very entrepreneurial startup into the corporate world, I approached it as I was an owner. Even though I was like on the sales side of this particular company, I was working in wireless communications, and I looked at it as that this is my business. So the work that I was doing, I still was an entrepreneur, and just tried to, within the framework that I had to work within, how can I own it like it's mine, like I'm going to receive all the benefits of being a success. And so I just took that mindset really into every situation when I wasn't an owner or a founder of a company. And I think it can be the most basic. If you take that mindset, that way of being, of going into a job and saying, how can I make this better? How can I focus on details that I typically don't, because they're kind of mundane, but if I focus on them and make them perfect, then, it's going to have a ripple effect down the road, and, I'm going to learn things better and get promoted or whatever. So even it's like the smallest detail, own it like it's your business, and you'd want that smallest detail made perfectly or done perfectly, or in some cases provide feedback. You know, you have a unique way of looking at the world. Everyone does, and we all have great insight into, you know, whatever the field is that even an owner might not have specifically looked at or thought of in some time. So to be able to provide that insight that's very unique to the individual is huge. And it can, you know, I mean, there's great examples of it all throughout, even, you know, history or whatever. It was one of the airlines, one of the flight attendants told, you know, gave feedback that no one was eating the olives on the salad. And they stopped, you know, putting the olives in the salad and saved the company like $8 million, or don't quote me on the price, but it was like millions of dollars that this company was buying in olives and they were just throwing it away, you know? So there was a great book that I read, was introduced to early in my career, called The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. And it's basically about a company that was like refurbishing carburetors or something, like really dirty, nasty work, no profit margin. And the company was going to phase out that segment of the business. And instead the employees came together, like 200 employees of that division, and bought it from the company. And the leader of it instituted something called open book management. And so everybody had a say in, you know, how the business, not necessarily how the business was run, but they looked at the financials, and everyone had a say on like what they were doing and to make it better. And they turned that business that was losing money into hugely profitable in an X amount of time. I don't remember. It just inspired me so much. That's what kept me going in the early days of figuring out what's next.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kristen and John, for getting us started down that path. I think there were some great nuggets in there from Gabe. And then Sarthak, do you want to unmute and ask your question directly? Would you be willing to do that?
So hey everyone, it's been a great webinar as usual. So I just wanted to know whether what drove your entrepreneurial ventures. Like, was it your education, or was it something that drove you outside of your education?
Yeah, no, it was, I think to start with, it was outside of education. I don't know how to say it. I kind of took a windy road in college too. I thought I was going to initially be a athletic sports trainer until I got into see an operation on a knee. A football player had blown out his knee, and I almost passed out. So I'm like, oh, I got to change majors because I can't handle blood. And so it took me a while to kind of finish college, and ended up with a communications degree. But along the way, I had friends that were entrepreneurial, and I would always be like, what are you doing? You know, I kind of came from the background of you work for somebody. My dad worked for a company for 37 years. But it always intrigued me. And I had little jobs along the way that I didn't really think were entrepreneurial. I had a window washing business in high school for a little while. And when I realized that career counseling wasn't going to be the career that I thought it was going to be, and then I found that startup, it kind of blew my mind when at one point I realized that without any high-tech experience in nanotechnology or developing any kind of instrumentation like that or starting a business, I had helped create this company, and we had sold our first instrument to a lab in Japan and had dealt with international business, you know, out of the gate, small team. And we were, you know, successful to start with. And because of the some of the structure that I put in place, when I realized that I had my hands in it, and it was almost, I don't want to say it was like a drug, but I just knew that I wanted to go down that path and just continue doing it. You know, once I saw some of that early success of getting those structures in place and having success, it was like I wanted more of it, which to an earlier point, it's a little bit, it was interesting because I thought that since I was so raw and naive about being an entrepreneur, that you just create these things and it's automatically, you know, you're going to be successful. So, because that's what I saw in the beginning. We get low on money, but then a sale would come in and it would be, you know, peaks and valleys. And then at one point when the sales kind of stopped and my back was against the wall, at that point I had taken over the company from my partner and was working solely with the engineer. And when my back was against the wall, I you know, used some of that critical thinking and like figured out that the information that the technology was providing was more valuable than the actual device that we were selling. So I created a research service, and cost me a couple $1,000s to do marketing, and got a couple of contracts from it, and gave me more runway, you know, at that particular time. Yeah, I think it's now it's interesting because back then I just wasn't in tune with being an entrepreneur, and on the outside of other people doing it, it just became like, this is kind of what I'm meant to do. This is the route I should be going, because I knew I just didn't, you know, square peg in a round hole in trying to be in the you know, the more corporate world for me. So did that answer your question kind of?
Yeah, definitely. It was great to hear your experience. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. I'm not seeing any other questions on chat. I'm curious maybe if John can chime in relating this back to, we have many engineers here, many builders, many solvers of problems, how this might interact with a larger methodology that might be available.
I think, thanks, Brent. I think that Gabe's concept of, if you're in a larger organization, think of yourself as the CEO of wherever you are in the organization. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. And what would the CEO do if that was his organization or her organization to improve it? And so there's an entrepreneurial goal. Something needs to be improved. It hasn't been done. And there's a lot of opportunity. The quality improvement programs of the 80s or so, that's what they really did. And a lot of improvements were made, particularly probably the best example is Toyota. The other thing I was thinking about in looking over Gabe's presentation was this idea of failures. And two things kind of come to mind right now. One is Bill Clinton obviously was a two-term president. So obviously you could consider him to be, you know, from beginning of his career, father died before he was born, ultimately becomes the president of the United States and serves 2 terms. He had a lot of failures along the way. I don't know if you all are familiar with Bill Clinton's career. It's a fascinating career. He had, like I said, many, many failures. And what he would do was, after a failure, he was super positive attitude, and he asked everybody he ran into, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Ad nauseum. I get, you know, you read about Bill and people will say, he just kept after me on what did I do wrong? And so he was really trying to get as many views of what he did wrong, so that the next time he tried to run for, you know, governor or whatever, he would say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Of course, he would do something else kind of stupid and do something wrong. But he was always, what do I do wrong? What did I do wrong? You could do that in an examination, for example. You take an exam, you studied, you tried really hard, you didn't make it. Well, okay, fine. What did I do wrong? You know, did you not study right? Did you not take good notes? You know, there's the little things like Gabe mentioned. Start small, figure out a small thing and try to figure out how to get around it. Another thing that I was looking at recently is Mark Zuckerberg's getting into some difficulty with his idea is free and open interaction, but he's getting some real blowback on people posting things. People are concerned about Trump's postings and and that sort of thing. And he's getting a lot of blowback now. What's very interesting, if you go back, I a couple of days ago I went back and I pulled the IPO publication, and I read it. And one of he had a lot of things in there. The IPOs make you discuss all the risks that could occur in a corporation when you go public. One of his risks in there was exactly what's occurring right now to him, that he's getting feedback from allowing free postings of things. So it'll be interesting for all of us to watch and see how Mark reacts to that. There's some thought, you do a lot of reading in Wall Street Journal and whatnot, that, hey, this is the end of Facebook. I don't believe that, but it'll be interesting to see how Mark uses something that he knew was a potential failure actually came to pass. So now what is Facebook going to do to get through it and be successful in the future? So I do think your point on failure actions was right on target. And and the Bill Clinton, my thoughts on Bill Clinton and Mark Zuckerberg are some really new insights, I think, that people can use as a model.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think those are great points. I also want to, on that last point, we're in a time right now where it's never been easier to start a business. It's never been easier to, not that it's easy, but it's never been easier to connect with the target market or understand the target market. Just a number of things are just allowing us to create businesses, services, and get them out, to the marketplace. But I guess the along with that is that it doesn't have to be perfect to get it to that end user. In my day when I was first, being an entrepreneur, like it had to be, I was dealing with science too, but it had to be perfect what we were selling. We couldn't advertise anything, less than the specs that the instrumentation, could do, and all of that. So that's how I have always attacked my businesses and services and things that I've done, and which is, the honorable and right thing to do. But in today's time, it's more about speed to market and fail fast. Learn from it, learn from your customer, or learn from your boss or whoever, iterate, and make something better. And the process is you have to be thick-skinned and know that initial idea may not be what everybody wants, or may not be what your team wants or your boss wants, but there may be some kernel of gold there, and you just have to mine it a little bit more to make it better. And the payoff, as Thomas Edison's quote, all those people that just didn't stick with it enough could have been hugely successful if they would have kept going. So there's a lot of points there. Fail fast and fail often, and just keep iterating.
Great stuff. So we have a little bit of time left. So I want to make sure if Maxwell is willing, I'd love for him to ask. He had a great question in chat, if he's willing to ask it in real time via voice. Oh, good. Maxwell, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to start off by saying thank you to Gabe for sharing all your knowledge and experience with us today. And then a question for you would be, when building a startup team, what questions or performable actions, such as like giving them a pen and then having them sell it to you, would you ask in an interview to a potential candidate to measure their entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question, because in a startup team, you don't really have making the wrong choice can be detrimental to the company. You don't have a lot of time to navigate, where you're going to go and not have, someone pulling their weight or be the wrong person. And I think really what comes to me is going back to that first slide that I did. What is their why? Like really understanding what is motivating that person that you want to bring into your environment. Really understanding their skill set and understanding what type of person they are, given that if it's a true, if you're doing something that's going to be substantial, that you will definitely have rough waters. And how is that person going to handle those rough waters? Are they going to be a good teammate, or are they going to be on their own? And I think that, you can ask questions to get a sense of their, say, character or their experience that are going to give you some indication of what they're made of, and really what their why is about, and how that's going to fit with what your why is, and why you're doing the business that you're doing, and all of that.
That's a great answer, Gabe. And it really got me thinking too. And great question again, Max. Thank you. I want to point out, as Gabe was presenting his first few slides, Gabe, I was really pushing this group on getting to the kind of the intrinsic core of their why. And I'm really happy that you brought it back to a very tactical, kind of application when hiring. So to Max's question, I'm hearing you say, some of the questions you can be asking, and many of you who are not hiring, when you're hoping to be hired, can think about this as you're going through interviews. Really focus on the intrinsic, motivations that you have as an engineer or a builder or a problem solver or whatever is that you want to do, versus the extrinsic, potentially financial motivations or kind of vanity metrics that you might be going after. And the last thing I wanted to say, Gabe, in response to your answer was, it was very reminiscent to a quote that I read from, unfortunately, the founder of Papa John's, who's been kind of beaten up, for rightfully so, in the media over the last few years. Melissa's agreeing with me. But he had a great quote where he said, at Papa John's, we hire for attitude and train for aptitude. And it goes exactly in step with what Gabe is saying about, really uncovering the why in the hiring process and the team formation process, because it's all about attitude. It's all about mindset. It's about that fifth gear that you might be able to find in order to solve a problem effectively, and being empathetic to the end user, the customer, or the organization itself. So there you go, Gabe. That's my 2 cents for you. And if we have any additional time, a few minutes left, John also asked another really compelling question about entrepreneurial mindset as it relates to sustainability, which might also link up with empathy and how people go about problem solving, in a global or socioeconomic context. So don't want to go too far down any rabbit holes with only a few minutes left. But Gabe, again, thanks. Any parting words you have on any of those topics would be really appreciated.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting on the sustainability. What you're doing at ASU, you're doing some great things to foster some of the those skill sets and environments that are helping groups push the envelope on on sustainability in a number of areas. And it's probably about a year ago, went to a pitch day. I forget the name of it, but at SkySong, and there was a group of young entrepreneurs, students that had created a trash can that would help separate a variety of recyclables, because if you put coffee into certain recyclables, you can't recycle them anymore. It's just trash at that point. So, they went in and with a design, thinking, created a trash can that they ended up selling like 150K worth of trash cans to ASU. And we're looking at other companies or other universities to do that. So it felt like, and I only talked to them a little bit, but the confidence they got from being in the ASU program and having a group of people that were, they're in engineering, was just a right environment to help them solve that problem. And then they were going to looking to go on and maybe create like a design consultancy that go on and solve other problems. So I guess to back that long-winded answer out is that structure that ASU is providing, and there are other places as well. Taking some of those skill sets into sustainability and finding those like-minded people to kind of push the different solutions in sustainability, I think is one avenue to go. But it's probably needed even more than in other areas to have that entrepreneurial mindset in sustainability, because we have so far to go in that area.
Great. Well said. Thank you for those thoughts, Gabe. And just a quick plug there for Gabe's story. He was referencing our ASU Venture Devils program. We have an application deadline coming up for Venture Devils on August 1st. You just Google ASU Venture Devils. If you have a new product, service, or venture idea that you'd like mentoring and coaching on, and ultimately, be put in a competitive position to win funding and support through our biannual demo days. That's what Gabe was referencing. He met the company, I believe they're called Smart N, if I remember correctly, but really cool company. And thanks, Gabe. Really appreciate your time, your insights, your leadership. And it's about lunchtime, 1 o'clock in Mountain Standard Time. So if you're eating lunch, make sure that you eat the olives, or make sure to share those with another organization that can dispose of those properly.
Real quick, one thing, there's some great questions in the chat. I can go back and answer them on my own. Is there a way to get back in touch with some of the people who've asked these questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned at the outset, my colleague Melissa Stein is here. Melissa, do you want to say hi to everybody? Everybody sees your email, so you might as well say hello.
Hi, everyone.
So Melissa and I both have access to the registrant roster. And so Gabe, I'm sure we can share certain names and emails with you per the invitations that are flying in chat. So we can loop back on that. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then allow some additional conversation to happen afterward, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay.
Great. Okay, thanks again, Gabe. We'll stop the recording and continue the conversation.
Thanks, Brent.